Hey guys, Jeff here, and today we're going to be talking about how to repair and replace vinyl siding. This stuff is actually really easy to work with, and I'm sure that you're going to be able to do this just fine. Cheers. We are dealing with a result of layer upon layer construction, and I'll explain what I mean by this. This facade right here, this material, that is the original exterior facade. This product is like a formed sheet metal to make it look like wood siding, and there are other examples of it in the neighborhood, and that's fine. And then after they installed that in the window, they then installed flashing and then this old window covering. Okay, remember? We'll call it slotted aluminum, but it was attached to the facade. And then after 20, 30, 40 years went by, someone came along and said, hey, the house is ugly, let's make it look pretty. And instead of disengaging that and then putting on a new facade, they just worked around it. So here I am, changing my windows, getting rid of that useless aluminum, and now I've got to change my siding. On top of that, I've got another issue over by the other door where the J-trim coming up the side. You can see this. This is installed, I don't know what they were installing it against, but they sure missed the mark when it came to being level. My window's level, and this is way off, and this gap is unacceptable. So I'm going to have to open up a little bit of this to be able to reinstall this trim. Hopefully I can just slide it over and everything will work. But the goal today is to remove, try to reuse whatever we can, and then re-engage the new siding starting from this height. And then we are going to deal with how we're going to cover all this up and make it look pretty. And that's because it's an outside angle. And I don't want to have J-trim all the way down here and 3-inch pieces of siding on either side. That'll look stupid. Let's start with step one, which is to disengage all this. Fortunately for me, we learned that the people that installed the siding got creative with their final layer. And instead of screwing it, they used silicone to attach this piece. So I already know there's silicone behind here. I'll almost guarantee it. I mean, if that's the system they used, that's the system they used. And I've got to cut through my vinyl to expose the screws holding this piece. And I'd rather cut it instead of fighting with it because I'm on a platform today and I don't feel like falling down. So here we go. Yeah, all that silicone goodness right there. There's one screw and there's the other screw. Alrighty, so good news is those are perfectly good screws, and this is perfectly good siding if it didn't have silicone on it. Now this is garbage. Now we see another example of this integrity issue. Listen, I'll say this again. The most important tool you have in your toolbox is your integrity. As a builder, you can't do things 95%. Because every time you do something that's 5% short of the goal on a thermal system or a waterproofing or water diversion system, 5% or 2% is all it takes for disaster. Why even bother insulating if you're not insulating? This is the kind of thing that people do, no one's gonna see it. Well, if no one's gonna see it, and you're not gonna do it right, don't do it at all. Was that a wasp? I'm not around a nest, am I? Okay. Oh. Lots of organics in here, fellas. Yeah, that was a wasp nest. So there's another wasp nest, a larva. Oh my goodness. That piece is installed with 3 screws. 2 of them are huge. One of them is so tiny. I'm not harping on anybody. I'm here to tell you guys, you can't do stuff like this. You're gonna get one piece that's loose and the corner's gonna flap in the wind, and then the next windstorm, you're gonna tear a corner of your house off. What? Because you didn't have the right screw? Is this the last screw that went in and they went looking in the woodshed for it? I don't know. That's garbage. Let's move along here to this one. Again, we're gonna have all silicone. Whoa. Whoa. Wasps love it hot. So the higher on the wall, the hotter it is. Yeah, let's just hope there aren't any active nests in here because that was the mother load. There won't be anything acrobatic about me today. I'm either gonna get stung or I'm not. Hope we don't run into these guys. So that's a really interesting thought I just had, that a lot of the organics that I'm finding in this wall are not from rotting wood or anything else. They're falling out from all over the place. This is all these mud wasps nests that are trapped in here, that the wind is causing it to turn into debris and then it's getting trapped. And you know, that's an interesting issue, isn't it? Because it's like, Now you've got something that's going to hold moisture trapped against your wall. No one, I would never have thought in a million years that that could have been an actual consideration for why you might be having mold or rot or termite damage, is because mud wasps. But now all of a sudden it's a contributing factor. So you can tell because of the corrugation of this wall that whatever I'm doing up here to try to waterproof this from wind-driven rain isn't going to work. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to clean this all off, and I'm coming back with a Tyvek sheet. And I'm going to set up the Tyvek sheet so that it overlaps my flashing, and it overlaps all of this tape and adhesive. When I'm looking through the eyes of building science and you're looking to solve problems, always consider this fact that physics is better than chemistry. So if I have a physical barrier here that the water doesn't get through, and it runs down and it meets another physical barrier, and then it runs and then goes meets another physical barrier all the way to the ground, that's a diversion system. If I have gaskets and tapes and all this kind of stuff, that's chemistry. Chemistry is only as good as the person installing it. That goes back to your integrity again. But it also has a degradation rate. Okay, anything that's applied with a tape or an adhesive or a caulking, it breaks down over time. And sooner or later it will fail. So when you're looking at your own projects, consider what can I do that follows the laws of physics for moving water away from a house instead of leaning on chemistry. Because that's a temporary solution in the lifespan of a building. All right. We have unable to understand what they were trying to do here. That insulation has an R value of like 0.5. But as a thermal barrier, it's only good if it's the entire surface of the wall. So in actuality, it has no value at all. All they were doing here is just punching holes in the wall for no reason. All right, guys, so when you're working with this by yourself, cut your material longer than you need it, okay? It's relatively inexpensive. And I know Tyvek, this is not Tyvek, but it is house wrap. It's a similar principle. And to be honest with you, Home Depot's done a marvelous job of finding a way to make this cheaper than your product on their shelf. So, when I'm cheap, I'm cheap. Here I are, I'm in half. Okay, I'm gonna mark my center line with my marker. Give or take. Now, there's only one way to install house wrap to metal, and that is with screws. So, what I'm gonna do is take my Tyvek tape, put it over top of my house wrap, my screw and my drill. Bring this up to my center line, plus a little bit because I'm trying to go to the very peak here. And I'm going to throw a screw in it, hold it in position. The reason I'm using the tape is because it gives it a little bit more strength as I'm pulling it around. Now the reason I drew that center line on here is so I know what level looks like, give or take. Boom. I don't really need that tape except for where I put my screws, but you can see the mark through the wall. I know where my level line is. There we go. All right, now I'm going to stretch this out. The goal here is to have this sitting so that the house wrap gets past my flange, right to here. That's really the whole goal of this exercise. I want to create this water diversion system that doesn't rely on tape to get past my flange, okay? And here we are, now I've got it. I'm gonna put another screw surface over here. Okay, got a little bit of tape up here. Not just to hold it in place, but to seal off the very top against the wind-driven rain. Okay. So now I'm going to tape this shut. Right over top. Now we're going to take a second and just follow the path of water. Wind drives it underneath behind the siding. It'll fall down, it'll hit this ledge, and this ledge sits on a vinyl extrusion, so there's no way into the house. So it has to go left or right. When it comes left, it'll come around this corner, follow the vinyl extrusion all the way to the ground, and anything that comes down the middle is now clear to hit the original siding and follow it all the way to the ground. So now we got a system that's gonna not fail, because this tape here, water would have fallen and got right in behind that tape. there's just no way to make that seal because it's so dirty and there's caulking and there's all kinds of issues. So we're avoiding all these potential issues by creating a brand new physical barrier, physics, for a water diversion system. Make sense? Cheers. Thank God for the scaffolding. Saved me a lot of money. So because I'm down here working in Florida, I don't have my own scaffolding around. So I had to take a look at rental options. And there was a local company that was offering me $360 for the month. I don't need a month for this, but that was their minimum charge because it's commercial. 400 delivery, 400 for pickup. All of a sudden, it was over $1,000 after tax for me to have a platform to stand on and do this job. So the other alternative was go to Home Depot, pick up one of these rigs, 250, 260 bucks or something. The challenge is that I don't have 3 stages set up, so I have to work one small section at a time. But I will endure the frustration instead of the hit to the wallet and work in one section at a time if I have to. It's maddening, and it takes a little bit extra effort. But if you take a look at the difference in the cost, I'm saving 800 bucks. So if it takes me an extra couple of hours to get the project done, I'm making $400 an hour today. And that's not a bad problem to have. All right, that's as much as I can get from here. The only other thing I want to do is while I'm here, I'm going to trim the excess of this house wrap so that, wow. Yeah, it is not Tyvek, I'll tell you that right now. Tyvek is a lot easier to work with and cuts a lot smoother. So nice try, Home Depot, but I don't think I'm buying that ever again. To the left, bring that line up way over here, which means all this siding and this trim is cut to the wrong dimension. Because when that line comes up here, that's where I've got to stop. Unbelievable. I mean, they had the top part right, and then someone didn't measure and install the trim with a level. So, as it turns out, I've got a lot of extra work to do here. Wow. All right, let's try this. That looks a little bit closer to what it's going to need to be. Same thing, I happen to know that they use silicone. There we go. I'm going to save these screws. Break the lock. Oh, that's all silicone too? Seriously, guys? So the trim up and around the door is fine. This piece is garbage. It's not long enough. Oh yeah. Nope, I gotta keep on tearing this apart. All right, we're gonna keep tearing this siding off until we get down to where I can adjust the right screw to slide this trim over. All right. And we'll reinstall those later. I think they're going to be long enough. Okay, so now that's close. That is close. I'm just going to adjust this a little bit more. I'm still a little bit out of line here. That's where I want it. Okay, beautiful. We are officially in the rebuilding phase. Okay, let's start down here. Yeah. So what I think I'm going to do here, guys, is I'm going to just cut this back and then join up the J-trim right there. Instead of tearing apart all of that difficulty, it's not the end of the world when J-trim meets up against each other. So this is one of these cases where integrity says do the best work you can, and at the same time, common sense says the only purpose that this J-trim is providing me is something to lock the siding in place. So it has to look pretty. It's not part of anything. It's just there to lock it in place. The short piece of J-trim. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna install a new J over top of that, and then inside of this, so that I can lock all this together. Here we go, and it'll still be pretty. Remember, I'm gonna be painting all of this, so long enough that I can put one screw in both pieces. That'll never disengage. There we go, mission accomplished. Now, we got this set, we got that set. I'm not affecting the weatherproofing of the system of the house here. So we're gonna go ahead and reinstate that siding. Let's see if this is gonna work. Okay, now, it's not the hottest day of the year, but it's not exactly the coldest. Boy, oh boy. I don't wanna do even one more layer of that. Remember, we're hanging it, we're not screwing it to the wall. That's not gonna be any good. You want your siding to be able to slide left and right, because there's a lot of expansion and contraction forces at work here. If you use too short of a screw, you don't have enough depth to allow that to hang right. Okay, you don't screw it all the way in. Always leave a gap so things slide around. So here's the deal. We're putting on siding to the end, but we also have to have a little bit of a gap. So when you measure, make sure you leave at least a 1/4 inch on each side. That's for best practice. And make sure you write everything down as you go. Remember, a double 4.5 is a 9 inches of actual finished work. So go to the rib, measure up 9, 18, 2 pieces. The third piece will be the full length. So now I'm measuring all the way over into there. There we go, into here. That's 71.5, okay? There we go. If you write it down with a big black marker, you'll be able to get off, go do all your cuts, and then come back up and do all your install at the same time, instead of going up and down for every single piece. And that will drive you nuts. Now, over here, it's more than 9 inches to get up to that siding. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut a second piece the same length as this one. There we go, we'll at least get that established. And then after that, I don't know, we'll get that when we get there. In a perfect world, we can measure the whole wall, but that's not gonna happen. All right guys, so in order to install the siding on this panel, and we're gonna treat everything like one box at a time. So I'm gonna have a J trim coming down here, across and up. I don't really know what's gonna happen with that piece. It seems a little bit difficult for me to get the measurement right out of the gate. So what I am gonna do is I'm just measuring across here until I see I'm at the apex of this corner. And so I'm going 33 1/4 just to be a little merciful to me, because I can always trim it. And then I got a 24 1/4 height, so I need 57.5. First thing we're gonna do, let's measure from here, the 33 1/4. Whoa, there we go. This stuff is a little on the flimsy side. I picked it up from the Home Depot to try to keep my costs down, because I just needed a couple pieces. Turns out this isn't even standard size J trim. It's a little on the skinny side. I had no idea that the world would get to that point where we had to make a 1 inch J trim 3/4 inch just to save on material costs. All right, here we go. Cut the top and the bottom. I'm just gonna get this on here first. I'll just take that. I'll start with my side, and I'm gonna have to come down and move my ladder. Okay, here we go, guys. All right, let's just do this. Let's do the long side first. We'll get this locked in. I got a little bit of movement back and forth, and because when you're working alone and you've got to force this stuff around, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna just take a long screw, set it in the corner, and hang it so it wiggles, but it won't pop off my lock, okay? Let's get around the other side and fix it up. All right, so here's a great teaching moment, guys. I've got it locked over here, one screw, but I can still, a lot of adjustment here, right? Now we measured this pretty exactly, and the reason for that is when you never really know when you're working with this stuff, especially as a DIYer. What's first, the chicken or the egg? What do I cut? What do I make wide? What do I make short? How do I fit it in? All these types of questions. So take a look at the consideration. This can all fold. If I can get behind this trim, right? So that's not a problem, but how do I get behind this trim and this trim? Well, I can get behind this trim if I fold it this way, but then I can't get behind that trim, right? You see? So here's the conundrum. So let's just work with this. This trim will move a little bit. This one will move a little bit, okay? So what I'm gonna suggest is, let's try going this way, But because it's cut so exact, I'm gonna buy myself a little extra space here. Okay? These adjustments can be made on site, not a real big issue. Plus, I know getting those corners are a real pain in the butt, right? This doesn't have to be there because it's gonna be covered by the next piece. Okay, give yourself a little bit of mercy. So we're gonna pull this over. We're gonna start this here. We're gonna try to force it in behind. Nope, we're gonna go in behind first. Okay, now we're gonna roll it up. Okay, now that we're in behind and rolled up, now we can pull it down through these trims. Get your knife in here. Give it something right over top of that rib. Lock the joint. Boom. Now we're good to go. There we go. Hopefully that helps somebody. The next piece of siding is going to connect to this trim, and it's going to go to the same location. So it's the same length as the last one. That's a good thing. So we're going to cut that. But how do we get this measurement and that angle? And here's how we're going to do it. We're going to take another piece of siding right from the very beginning. We're going to lock that piece into the joint. We'll slap. Whoa, whoa. Hey, Matt. Can I get that in half? All right, so we're going to take a piece of siding that's cut square. We're going to lock it in, all right? And we're going to bring it across until it makes contact. Bam, right here. We're going to mark that spot, okay? Because at that location is now a full piece. Now I can translate that information. I can measure. I'm going to go from my end of my siding to here, which is going to be 52 7/8. 52 7/8, full piece. And then I can, on the other piece of siding, I just start from the right, mark this corner, mark that corner, drop a straight line, and that's my cut. Nice and simple. We're not actually cutting from a triangle. We're going to go up a little bit, and then we have to turn. So we need this height as well. So we're going to take this measurement here. We'll draw a line across. We'll go up into the siding for visual. We're going to get that height. So we're going to go 2 inches. That's pretty darn awesome. So this is going to be 2 inches. That's the proper way to lock it together, not using silicone. But this isn't a big space, is it? Yeah, it works. It's just pretty bloody perfect, actually. All right, well, there we go. We're done panel number 1 of 5. Then now it's just a matter of redoing the same thing over and over again, instilling some integrity in our system to make sure that no matter what kind of storms hit southern Florida, this sucker is going to never move around. These vinyl extrusions that they do with windows, the way this is joined is like a melting together, okay? So you always get this extra material squeezing out. And if you want a perfectly nice corner, you actually have to trim them back. So you have to take your knife and you have to literally set it and trim it, okay? Until you get it perfectly square. In some cases, it can be a lot of material, but if you don't take the time to trim that back, you're not going to have an edge that you can work with. If you're not sure, just take your trim and see if it sits flush or if it's stuck up off the corner. And once you got it trimmed back, it should sit nice and flush. Good to go. And because I'm dealing with outside corners, outside corner on the back versus the front are 2 different things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut back my material here and throw a 45 on it on the back side. This way, I can guarantee that I'm going to make positive contact on the front as well as the back, and then the vertical pieces that I'm going to add later are set in the right position. Even though it's 8 or 9 feet away, I'm very comfortable with that. Okay, when you're working alone, sometimes you got to throw a screw into something. You can get down off the ladder and then go double check. exactly what I got to do here. Let's go take a peek. Oh yeah. We are solid gold. It is crazy how out of level something can be over 1/8 of an inch trim. Okay, so in order to keep this in the right position, I'm going to cut the back of this. So it has the ability to maneuver. I'm going to show you that right here. So that I can go there, or I can go all the way over here. Okay, look at all the flexibility I just got. Now, I can just attach everything here at the right height. Yeah. I think what I'm going to do is go over top of here. There we go. I'm going to like that look better because the next piece can also go over top, and then it'll close all that gap up really good. So I'm just using my square on my material to draw a straight line so that I have an idea what level is. Knowing that I've installed my windows gives me the ability to cheat like this and not have to use a level on the site ever again. Alrighty, now we're in business.
Food's on the way.
Yeah, that's what I want to hear. Now we got a couple of different things we can look at here. We want to have the depth right. Leave a little bit of gap. And now I'm going to adjust my height here to keep that straight line. This eliminates me having to wonder if I'm level, and now I can be confident that I'm level. So many things going wrong here. All right. So we cut the width, and then we came into this realization: if we start with a full piece here, we're gonna misalign the joints of the siding. Okay, we don't want to do that. So now we've cut it. Let me just show this here so that the siding is continuous. That is a quality look. It takes an extra minute. Worth it. Now, because we cut the bottom off, we've lost the return down here. Okay, and that return edge is what locks it in the J-trim so that when it's windy, it's not flopping around. So what we do is we cut the top off of another piece of siding. Save your scraps, because this comes in handy. Because this is nice and thick. So you can stick that inside your J-trim. Now we're going to install this siding. Bend it into the J's over top of that piece. And that is nice and solid. There's no flopping around anymore. So now we can just find our gap, throw in some screws, and build off of this. And that is how you make adjustments over and around things and get a professional look with integrity. All right, here we go. So here I am, I've got my trim established further than I need, right? So I'm just gonna set it on top, draw that line, cut it, and then we will be underway. To make this even more perfect, I'm going to take just another hair off because I want to be able to have the vertical pieces come down to the full extent. So I got to make a little bit more room here. And there we go. And that should work like a charm. Okay, so now that gap will be perfectly concealed once we get the other trims on. Time for a couple more screws. First thing I'm doing is getting this installed and tape this thing where it belongs. All right, let's get my height, width. I need that piece that goes in behind his backer. There we go. We got a perfect match, ladies and gentlemen. Love it when a plan comes together. gonna be perfect. Yep. In these situations, because it's coming back, again, you have the same flopping around in the wind effect. So I'm gonna install one of these with that thicker profile for it to sit on the face of. It'll hold it in place a lot nicer. It's actually a lot bigger than what I need here. Keep that from moving around on us. There we go. Beautiful. The finishing touches. You never get called back on a job. Loving this job. Cut me 3 feet of the rib off one side and 3 feet off the other side, because that piece is probably going to be cut in here. And then that'll give me enough rib to put this in. Hey, we got this wrong. Did you cut the length of this yet? Or just the bottom?
Pretty sure I cut the length.
Okay. Or you just take it off the ground and...
No, I cut the length.
I feel like we're about 2 inches too long. I love it.
Yep.
Let's see. Yes, sir. We just need those pieces for the top now. Now, the key here, again, is to line up these outside corners. So we're going to put a little bit of pressure on this one and fold it in. Okay, look at that. Woohoo! So 111 1/4, Maddie. Putting a little downward pressure to line up the lines, so I don't want them separating. That's better. What's crazy is the substrate behind this is not even as well attached as I would like it to be either. It's bouncing all over the place. Need to get just a little bit of room for this. Funny how this is the center of the building. The center of the window isn't the center of the building. It's just so kind of messed up. Here we go. All right. Well, I sure measured it right. I don't know what you're cutting, but I know that's looking pretty damn spectacular if you ask me. Here we go, guys. Now the siding is done. We're securing it. Next up is to deal with this. Ay, 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 ay. I would love to hear what you guys do when you're in a situation like this, dealing with a 22.5 degree outside corner on a siding job. That I want to know. For me, I'll show you my trick right now. So let's just think this out. We got a 1/2 inch material behind here, and I meet this corner at 4.5 inches. Now, one thing we know is that the double Dutch or double lap 4.5 is actually 4.5 from rib to rib. So if I was to take a piece of siding and put it vertical, I would go from the edge to this point would be one piece. And then all I gotta do is measure from here to behind the backside to know where to grind the backside off of. Now, 3 would be aggressive. 2 3/4 looks pretty much perfect. So I think we're gonna give that a try. We're gonna take a piece of siding cut to length and keep the one fin and then go 2 3/4, which is just over this edge here, which is perfect. And we'll just snap it on in there. Hopefully this works out. Here we go. Here goes everything. Let's see if we can snap this bad boy in. Make it look somewhat normal. There we go. Why didn't that work? I don't care if it takes all bloody day to get this in here. Here we go. Okay, so now we're going to take some quad. It's a water-based exterior caulking. Can't use it inside because it stinks. Only outside in the clean, fresh air are you allowed to use it, okay? If you use this in a bathroom or something, you won't be able to use your bathroom for a month. It's horrific. It's because it works. All right, and what we're going to do is I'm going to fill the gap from here to here. This isn't physics. This is chemistry. I get it. And no other bloody options here. Giving these two pieces something to bond them together that's paintable, that will also not look too shabby, is a great idea. Okay. Thing about quad, don't stick your finger in it like caulking. Resist the temptation, all right? Apply it, walk away. If you touch it, it will follow you and be all over you and all over your wall. It's great stuff, but it has its limitations. There we go. Okay. There we go. We're going to fill that gap, create a nice little water diversion system. Okay. Whew. Now, I'm going to get up on the ladder at the last couple spots, but that is basically it, right? We are ready to paint. So, in the next video, we're going to open up the old paint sprayer machine. We're going to show you all the ins and outs of painting your vinyl. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And remember, if you're into projects and you need some help because you're a little over your head, and the people in the blue and orange aprons just aren't cutting it for you for a resource, consider joining our membership program. $5 a month, you can help support our channel so we can keep buying houses and renovating, which is not cheap, and taking the time to make videos to help you out, because that's our goal, to help you be successful in your project. Hope you enjoyed this one. Cheers to next time.